OP's wife wants to send their daughter to conversion therapy. Sorry for any typos, etc. I'm not thinking clearly right now. I'm honestly baffled and confused. Please assist me. For some background, my wife comes from a very Christian family. Her father and mother are the type of people who believe that anything written in the Bible is law and fact. I think that this is where this reaction stems from. Yesterday night, our daughter came out to us as a lesbian. I told her that her sexuality didn't impact how we felt about her in any way, that we were proud of her, and that we would always support her. My wife remained very silent throughout this whole conversation, only nodding and agreeing to what I was saying. After my daughter went to bed, I asked my wife why she was so quiet during the conversation. She said that she needed some time to think about what was discussed. I asked her what she meant by this, and she just kept on repeating to give her time to process. I have never seen my wife like this before, and it caught me off guard, but I let her be. All today, my wife has been very cold and harsh towards my daughter. For example, my daughter would try to engage in conversation only to be answered with yes or no's. Finally, after dinner, I snapped at my wife and demanded to know why she was treating our daughter like she had just done something horribly wrong. She answered by saying that what she was doing was wrong, and that we had to get her a therapist to try to help her realize what she was feeling was a sin and wrong. I honestly didn't know how to reply. I was so shocked. My wife has never expressed these views before, and I've always considered her to be my better half. After this, I was just so shocked. I walked away from the kitchen and have been in the den for the last 3 hours or so, trying to think through all that has happened. My daughter has had a rough couple of years, with the stress of tests and grades in school adding up to high school drama. How can I get her to understand that I will always be there for her and that I love and support her? I've never been good at the whole dad talk, so I honestly don't know what to say. Also, how can I get my wife to recognize that it's her that is in the wrong here? I'm confused, scared, and overall heartbroken. Please help. Any advice on how to move forward is helpful. Edit. I just woke up. Thank you for all the advice. I plan on talking to my wife when she gets home from work and bringing up the points you guys made. I want to clarify that I would never, in a million years, support sending my daughter to conversion therapy. I know how much harm they cause, and I would never put my daughter through that. That is why I was so disgusted when my wife brought it up. I'll update later today. Thank you all so much. Update. It's been over 2 years since my original post, and over 1 year since I lost my daughter to self-harm. After my post, I had to sit down with my wife and put my foot down on the issue of sending my daughter to conversion therapy. She freaked out at me once again. Long story short, I began the divorce process. She moved out and moved in with my in-laws, who my daughter adored, and who of course sided with my wife when they found out, resulting in my daughter being even more devastated. The number of nights where I held my daughter in my arms as she cried herself to sleep at night, asking why she had to be the way she was, why her mother hated her, and asking again and again if I hated her despite how many times I would tell her I loved her unconditionally, including her sexuality, were too many to count. I put her into therapy to help her try to process all of this. I cut back on my work shifts to work fewer hours to try to be there for her. I tried to keep anything related to the divorce as private as I could, as I didn't want her to stress about it even more. I keep thinking about what I could have done to stop that day. What else could I have done? What else could I have said? Every day I wake up thinking I should have done more. She left a note explaining how it's not my fault, but what else am I supposed to think? I haven't talked to my ex-wife for 8 months now. I'm in therapy, but to be honest, I do not think it is working. Sometimes I wander into her room, sit on her bed, and sob for what feels like hours. I keep expecting to see her walk home from school, to see her smile, and to hear her laugh from down the hall. If there's one thing you get out of this, please let it be to remind your kids how much you love them for themselves, for all of their quirks and all of their personality traits. Hold them close and never let them go. I miss you more than anything, Jesse. I'm sorry. Second story. My ex cheated on me 10 years ago, and we got divorced. Now I want him back in my life. It is the right decision. My ex, whom we'll call Mike, and I were together since we were 14 and got married at 22. We have 2 kids together, 15F and 11M. My ex's work takes him all over the country for a week every quarter. On one of those trips, he hooked up with one of his coworkers. I never thought he could do something like that because our relationship was really solid. He confessed immediately after he got home. I actually would have never found out if he hadn't. He begged me for forgiveness, said that he still loved me, and that it was a lapse in judgment, but said he would understand if I wanted a divorce, which is what eventually happened. It was very amicable, and he actually gave me more than I expected: house, child support, and alimony. It was a slow process, but over the years, we became friends again and have a good co-parenting dynamic. Mike's a great father, and the kids still love him. I got married 3 years later, and he was actually very supportive. I divorced my second husband 2 years ago because he changed his mind about kids. I want one last baby. Since the lockdown, Mike has been over frequently. At this point, our relationship is so good that we do not need to enforce any of the set visits and such. Well, things have been getting hot between us for the last few months, and we started having sex. I'm a woman with needs too, and to be very honest with you guys, he's still the best guy I've been with after all these years. It's like our bodies were made for each other. He always joked that we were like Prime Pippin and Jordan in bed, and when he said that again, it felt like we were back 10 years ago when we were still together. It was supposed to be just physical, but here we are. Just a few hours ago, he brought up the idea of us getting back together. He gave me the most genuine speech about how stupid he was the night he cheated, and how he never stopped loving me in the last 10 years. I was speechless and couldn't say anything, so he just gave me his usual toothy smile and said, "It's okay, I'll wait," before driving home. Now I'm lying here in bed, typing this out. I'd be lying to you guys if I said I didn't love him. I'd be lying if I said the last few months weren't the happiest I've been in years. And I'd be lying if I said I never forgave him for cheating. I told him years ago that I already did. If I had to decide right now, I'd jump out of bed, drive to his house, and bring him home. It's taking all my willpower not to do so. I love him. However, I also want to think with my brain here. Pros of taking him back. He's a great dad, and the kids would have him around more. He's a great provider. He says he still wants kids. I still love him. Cons. I don't know yet, but maybe some of you can help me with that. Any advice on how I should proceed? Edit. I made the first move when we started sleeping together. Update. It's been a few days now since I've posted, and Reddit has given me some solid advice, especially from the kind Redditors who messaged me directly. I'm very grateful for this because it helped me calm down and not give in to my impulses. The morning after I posted, I texted Mike saying that I needed time and space to think about everything. He then replied with, "I've waited 10 years, I can wait a bit longer." My heart melted. When the kids woke up, our son was looking for his dad. He's at the age now where he pretty much idolized his dad. I get why though. Mike is an amazing dad. Our daughter gave me the stink eye all morning. After lunch, when our son was in his room playing video games, my daughter confronted me about Mike. She basically said how she knew there was something going on. Guess we're not that sneaky, and that she didn't want our fighting to affect their lives. She thought we were fighting. Now, the divorce affected her, but not as badly as expected. We made sure to get her counseling immediately after and made extra sure her life was as normal as possible. I'm not going to delude myself and think she wasn't hurt by it, but I'm pretty confident in saying we dealt with it pretty well, or as well as we could. I then had the conversation about how we weren't fighting, but quite the opposite. We were thinking about getting back together. She thought about it for a while and said she was happy for us and hoped it was forever this time. The next day I dropped my kids off at my parents' house so I could talk to Mike at his place. We had a long talk about how we felt about each other, what we planned to do about it going forward. And as many of you suggested what he planned to do next time, we hit a rough patch, especially since we plan on having a third kid. He told me that the night he cheated still haunted him 10 years later. He told me how it wasn't worth it one bit, and how it was the biggest mistake of his life. He said that if ever we hit a rough patch again, we would talk about it like adults. He even suggested we do couples counseling every now and then, even when times are good. I liked this idea. There are some details about our conversation that I want to keep private, but long story short, we got back together. We are going to take it slow, and in every step we take, we both agreed that our children would take priority over everything. He's not going to move in yet, but he would spend a few nights a week at home with us. Later that night, we sat the kids down and broke the news. Daughter didn't say much because she already knew, but our son was over the moon. Since we divorced when he was a baby, the concept of both his parents being together was quite new to him. They obviously asked questions, and we answered them. We're also planning on doing family counseling to help make the transition easier for everybody. Overall, I'm really happy right now. Mike made a mistake 10 years ago, but I don't hold it against him and have completely forgiven him for it. I know he loves me now and won't cheat on me anymore. I'm back together now with the love of my life and father of my kids, and I couldn't be happier. As I type this out, Mike is in the next room playing video games with our son. I'm not entirely sure what the future will look like, but I'm happy he's back. Thank you, Reddit, for the advice. It really helped with our talk and how we proceed going forward. I think I'll stay online for an hour or so to reply till the kids are asleep, and he comes to bed. Then it's my turn to have fun.